Welcome back to the deep dive. If you're keeping track of current events, especially for UPSC mains and prelims, this is crucial stuff.
Absolutely.
Today we're looking at a story from the Hindu India, raising concerns about the U.S. revoking visas for Indian students. Quite a serious development. This is one of our key topic discussions.
It really is. There's a lot to unpack here. What's driving it, the scale, and, well, what it might mean, especially with a big U.S. visit coming up.
Exactly. So India's officially voiced its unease. And the timing is interesting, isn't it? Right before U.S. Vice President J.D. Vance is due in India, April 21st.
It's very notable timing. And the numbers involved here are, frankly, startling. There's a survey by the American Immigration Lawyers Association, AILA.
Right, AILA, what did they find?
They found that 50%, half, of recent U.S. visa revocation notices went to Indian students.
50%. Wow, that's disproportionate, surely.
It certainly seems that way. Other nationalities were affected too, of course. The survey mentioned about 14% from China, and students from South Korea, Nepal, Bangladesh also saw revocations. But Indians were the clear majority.
Okay, so half of their revocations are hitting Indian students. How is the U.S. responding to India's concerns? Are they acknowledging this?
Well, officially, they're denying any kind of discriminatory targeting. Their line is that these are continuous vetting and visa revocation actions that apply, equally across the board.
Uh-huh. Standard procedure, they'd say.
Pretty much. They point to this initiative called Catch and Revoke.
Catch and revoke sounds ominous. What is that?
It's an AI-assisted program that's apparently initiated by Secretary of State Marco Rubio. It uses artificial intelligence to monitor visa holders, particularly their social media, looking for views considered inimical to U.S. foreign policy.
So AI scanning social media for opinions.
That seems to be the core of it.
Yeah.
And importantly, it's linked to SEVIS.
SEVIS, that's the Student and Exchange Visitor Information System, right? Tracks international students.
Exactly. So the AI flags someone, it connects to SEVIS. Then the Department of Homeland Security, DHS, can step in.
And what does DHS do?
They can terminate the student's SEVIS status. And here's a really concerning part. This can happen if the student's name simply appears in a police database.
Wait, even for minor things? Or if they weren't even charged?
That's what the reports suggest. Even minor infractions like traffic tickets or campus rule violations. Or, quite disturbingly, even if the student was a victim of a crime, like domestic abuse, and their name ended up in a police report because of it.
That seems incredibly harsh. Are there actual cases like this?
Yes, we heard about Ranjani Srinivasa and Badar Khan Suri early on being told to self-deport. Since then, others have had to take legal action to try and get their SEVIS status back.
And India's stance? The Ministry of External Affairs.
Initially, they advised students just to comply with U.S. laws. Be careful. But now they seem to be taking a more active role, offering assistance through the embassies.
Understandable, given the ALF findings you mentioned. What else did that report highlight?
Well, it reinforced the point about minor offenses triggering these revocations. Out of 327 cases they looked at, only 2 allegedly involved political activity. Just 2.
So it's mostly not about political dissent or security threats, then?
It appears not, based on that data.
Yeah.
It's traffic violations, minor campus issues, or, as we said, victims appearing in police reports.
That raises serious questions about fairness and due process.
Absolutely. ALA's leadership has been quite vocal criticizing this approach. They argue it's unjust and actually harms U.S. interests.
How so?
By potentially driving away international students who contribute significantly, economically and scientifically. Losing that talent pool isn't good for the U.S., is the argument.
Makes sense. Okay, let's pivot to the diplomatic angle.
Yeah.
This high-level U.S. visit is imminent. Vice President Vance, Assistant Secretary Ricky Gill.
Yes, they're scheduled for talks in Delhi. PM Modi is expected to host VP Vance. The MEA says all bilateral issues are on the table.
So will this visa issue be specifically raised, alongside things like, say, U.S. tariffs?
It's not confirmed if it will be explicitly on the agenda. They'll discuss the broad relationship, but whether this specific point gets formal airtime, we'll have to see.
And Vance has other stops too, right?
Yeah, Jaipur and Agra are on his itinerary. Plus, other State Department officials will be at the India-U.S. forum. So lots of interaction points.
Okay, so let's recap quickly. India's worried about the high number of student visa revocations. The U.S. points to its AI-driven catch and revoke program, but denies targeting.
Right, and major concerns are being raised by groups like ALA about the reasons, often minor infractions or even victim status, and the potential harm to both students and U.S. interests.
All happening just as top U.S. officials arrive for talks.
Precisely. It really underscores how interconnected things like immigration tech, student mobility, and high-level diplomacy are.
Which brings us to a thought for our listeners to consider.
Yeah, thinking longer term. Initiatives like Catch and Revoke relying heavily on AI surveillance and potentially broad interpretations. What could the lasting impact be on the global flow of students, researchers, talent, on that exchange of knowledge between countries like India and the U.S.?
A really important question to ponder, especially for our UPSC aspirants tracking these global trends. Remember, our source for this deep dive was The Hindu.
Indeed.
If you found this breakdown helpful for staying informed on key current affairs, please do like, subscribe, and feel free to drop any further questions in the comments. We'll see you next time on The Deep Dive.